This has been a pretty difficult episode to record, and I'm not entirely sure why. I feel like the spiritual community has really fumbled the concept of love. And I know that sounds really strange to say, because love, unconditional love, is at the root of spirituality. Like, that is what we're taught. We are taught that we are unconditional love, and we're here to spread unconditional love. But I think that the way that a lot of spiritual people teach this has really abstracted love outside of the human experience. And by doing that, it really does have an impact on the relationships that we have. And so today, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about unconditional love, the state of love, and how this whole idea genuinely impacts our relationships. I think it's fair to say that most of us grow up learning conditional love. I'll speak for myself. I was not explicitly taught that love is something that exists within me. I was taught, and I learned through observation, that love is something that I get from people. And so it makes sense that, as children, we're not taught about this. But I also don't think that parents recognize that the way in which they choose to parent often reinforces the concept of conditional and transactional love. Like, when you just even think about ideas of respecting your elders, we call it respect, but what we're actually learning is obedience. We're learning that we have to listen to what our parents say, and if we don't, then we're punished, right? When I think about my own personal childhood, it's not even that I was punished. It's that if I didn't follow the rules, if I didn't live up to expectations, if I didn't do things exactly the way that my parents wanted, if I messed up on a grade, if I was human, if I was messy, whatever, the conditionality of the love that I received existed in micro moments where, when I didn't perform exactly correctly, love was withdrawn. There was, disapproval. There was a shift in energy. And it's not necessarily that I was outright punished. I mean, sometimes I was, but it was just like this shift in energy where you could feel somebody's disappointment and you could feel that you did something wrong. And so, as children, we naturally internalize those things, and it sends a very clear message that I must perform for love, right? Love is something that I earn. Love is something that I perform for. Love is something that I must prove myself worthy of. So then, we come into these adult relationships thinking that love is something that we get from other people, that it exists outside of us. And so we struggle to feel love inside of our relationships. And the whole idea is reinforced with, the idea of the love languages and meeting each other's cups and filling each other's needs, and, show me love by quality time and words of affirmation and acts of service. And once again, we're taught to perform so that other people can feel loved. And I mean, on the surface, it makes so much sense, but because in this stage, we still believe that love is something that exists outside of us. And, these relationship frameworks and these self-help ideas continue to reinforce the belief. So we're still operating as though love is something that people give us, and we spend our lives trying to earn it and secure it and being afraid that we might lose it. And all of this is what, I would describe as outsourcing our experience of love. Then if you're lucky, you end up having some kind of experience or multiple experiences, patterns of behavior, where it was destabilizing enough that you wake up, that you start exploring, that you start finding the fault in all of these frameworks. And then eventually you stumble on this idea that, wait a minute, love is actually not something that exists outside of me. Love is something that exists inside of me. It is an internal state. And we realize that the feelings of love that we have when we're with other people and we're experiencing it with other people, it's actually happening inside of our own nervous system. It's our emotions and our biochemical responses to the world around us. Like, other people do not generate it, but they mirror it. They reflect it to you. They activate something that already exists inside of you. So it is something that lives inside of you. It's not coming from them. It's coming from you. And it's so profound. And so now you're in a place where you can shift from the idea of outsourced love to self-sourced love. And I mean, that is so fucking liberating. Because now love isn't something I need to chase. Love isn't something that I need to get from other people. I can experience it within myself. And all of the behaviors I adapted in order to get love from other people, the people pleasing, the codependency, the overfunctioning, the attuning, all of the behaviors that my nervous system, that my subconscious uses to secure love and safety and connection from other people. Now I don't need to engage in those behaviors. They never really felt good anyways. But when you learn that love is something that exists inside of you, it finally makes the whole concept of self-love not feel so abstract, right? It's how you treat yourself, how you speak to yourself. It's no longer something you get from other people, but something that you source from within yourself. And like, I've witnessed other people who have this moment of realization and this liberation. And it's especially, I think, when you've come from really toxic and abusive relationships, and we're taught about setting boundaries, and we're taught about protecting the self, this idea that, oh, wait a minute, love lives inside of me. I don't have to hoard my empathy. I don't have to cut off that part of me because there's nothing to protect, because there's nothing to earn, because there's nothing to prove. That part can still exist. And so then it eventually opens the door to like really being able to see people for who they are, to accept them for who they are. It's not about tolerating bad behavior, but if you're no longer scanning people to meet you in a certain way so that you can feel loved, you shift to actually being able to witness people, to see who they actually are. It removes, from my experience, it removes the distortions from how you see people, because you stop chasing and you stop grasping and you stop needing them to be a certain way. You don't need somebody to complete you. You get to see people for who they truly are. You get to see their soul. And this is the state in spirituality that we typically call unconditional love. In this state, nobody needs to change because I'm not seeking love from them, because it already exists within me. And because love is something I source from within, I can give it to others freely. I'm not tracking, I'm not tracing, it's not transactional. And it's such a beautiful realization and a beautiful state to be. Like, don't get me wrong, being in the state of unconditional love, it's so peaceful, it's so freeing, because my self-worth is no longer tethered to other people. It is something that exists and is generated from within inside of me. But this is where things start to get abstract. So I was going through a little bit of a relational rupture with a friend of mine, and we have had a deep spiritual connection. And I think in the moment when I was communicating with them, I just wanted like a human acknowledgement. I just wanted human connection. And instead, what I got was I love you unconditionally. And it just kind of fell flat. Like, I know that they meant it because I know that they live and operate from the state of unconditional love. But in the moment, in that moment of human connection, it felt meaningless. It felt like love, the way that we know it from, a human lens, had been completely transcended to the point where it no longer touched anything. It was no longer a moment of contact between two people. And from a spiritual lens, the idea of unconditional love is super enlightening. And there's a certain state in your, as a human, where someone loving you unconditionally, meaning you don't have to change, you can be exactly who you are. You feel that acceptance, and it's really powerful. But when you're actually relating to somebody from a human to human relational lens, it just felt absent. Meaningless and absent. So I witnessed all of this, how it landed in my body, and a few weeks later, somebody else sent me a video. It was a video of oneness and consciousness, and I wasn't going to watch it, but then I decided to watch it anyways. And I'm really glad that I did, because there was something in that video that really resonated with that experience that I had with my friend. And I'm going to do my best to try and put it all into words here, but at the root of spirituality is, from my perspective, coming home to the true self. It's recognizing your true nature. And part of that true nature is the idea of oneness and your particular part in all that is. I know that sounds really abstract, but existence itself, consciousness, is existence itself. And consciousness did not come here to just hover above life. Consciousness came here to experience itself. And it does that through relationship. And that could be relationship with things, relationship with ideas, relationships with people. But it's through my interaction with these things that are perceived outside of me that I'm actually able to experience myself, right? So the beautiful thing about relationships, it's that inside of relationships is where consciousness, awareness, whatever you want to call it, gets to experience things like time and impact and friction and repair and choice. So when love is a state, it answers one fundamental question: how am I oriented towards existence? How, as a state, how do I perceive the world? How do I show up in the world and honor myself and show myself that unconditional love and act as though I love myself unconditionally? All of those things is what puts us in the state of love. But when we're actually within relationship, the question changes to, how does that love that I have for myself unconditionally, and you have for yourself unconditionally, and we have for each other unconditionally, how does that love move between us? And I think that this is the piece that spirituality is often missing, or that people who engage in spiritual practices are not fully reconciling. And that is the idea of embodied love, where love is not only a state, but it is something that exists between the space of two people. Embodied love is not attachment. Embodied love is not need, and it's not conditional. It is love, an abstract, intangible thing that has agreed to take form. And it is expressed through mutuality and continuity and choice and equal responsibility and participation in the relationship over time. Like, love never stops being a state. But when love is embodied, it becomes participation. It becomes aliveness. It becomes something that actually moves between two people. Aliveness. I think that's the core word. When love stays only a state, and it's not experienced through participation, it can be a bypass. When love lives only as participation and isn't experienced as a state, it can be attachment. So then embodiment is when love exists as both a state and participation, when awareness and responsibility are online at the same time. Like, unconditional love may very well be real. But if it's not moving between people, if it's not alive, if there's no initiation or naming or shared holding, then the relationship is not actually being lived. So I think, when we're in survival, love is something that exists outside of ourselves. And when we move into higher states of consciousness, love is something that is sourced within the self. But when we move into embodiment, love is something that is experienced between two people. It is alive. It moves. It is an equal participation within relationship. And that is exactly what consciousness wanted to experience.